You have an audience of one. Yeah.
We have a virtual audience of thousands.
Like 50,000 people around.
I like your butterfly
Honestly,
shirt.
some of the media.
All right, we are live. Good evening. Welcome to the Open Space and Ecology Committee meeting, April 26, 2023. This is our second meeting back in person, but my first one sharing in person with all these wonderful people. And hope everybody will give me a little slack being in person. But I'd like to maybe have a little bit of a ground rule since we no longer have the hands raised feature. So open this to everybody. What would we like to do? Because there's a lot to talk about. I'd like everybody to say what they have to say and then maybe come back and answer, add things to it in an orderly fashion. We've got to figure out how, Erin, when you're talking or have a question or want to say something, how do you want to notify me? I'm opening it up to everybody here.
We could raise our real hands.
That's true.
Raise the real hands works. I do want to remind everyone to speak into your microphones, and you do have to get pretty close to them and, really directional.
Okay.
So if you're off to the side, sometimes that doesn't work very well. So do keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yes, we are live. Yes.
So you want to call the meeting to order and do roll call?
Sure.
Cool.
So we're just gonna raise our hands if we have something to say. Okay. All right. The meeting.
You guys can't see the Zoom participants.
Whoa.
Rachel has her hands.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to reiterate what Adrian said about speaking into the mic because I'm taking minutes this evening and I'm on Zoom.
I will do my best. So call to order and roll call. Aaron Becker,
Here. Thank you.
Barbara Ebel. Here. Glenn Fieldman. Here. Jason Noonan.
Here.
Mary Rogers.
Here.
Michelle Salmon.
Here.
Shauna Kelmy's present. Will we adopt the agenda this evening?
I make a move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
The agenda is adopted.
I forgot to let you know, Shauna, I checked with Ingrid. We do still have to call roll call vote. Unfortunately, that was part of the recent legislation. So
Okie dokie. Well then, I will say once again, is the agenda adopted? Aaron Becker?
aye.
Barbara Ebel?
Aye.
Glenn Fieldman?
Aye.
Jason Noonan?
Aye.
Mary Rogers?
Aye.
Michelle Salmon?
Aye.
Shauna Kelmy's aye. The agenda has been adopted. All right. Do we have any announcements this evening?
We asked the city attorney to make a little presentation, a short discussion about using the city emails and the importance of it, because when we went back over when you were assigned city emails, I don't think all of that was made very clear. And we're still having challenges with some of you using them completely. So I'm turning it over to Michael.
Chair and members of the committee, good evening. Michael Roush, legal counsel for the city of Brisbane. I think it's really important for all the appointed officials who are recipients of emails, et cetera, that concern city business to have and to use the city email accounts. Primarily, I think it's because, we would like to have a system whereby all of the city business can be easily retrieved if we need to. And if it's not within the city email system and it's within your own personal email system, then we would have to go to each of you and ask you to look at your emails, decide which of those emails concern city business, and then ask you to provide that to us. And it becomes very cumbersome. And we would like to avoid having you to go through that exercise. Secondarily, from time to time, the city, or many cities do, get Public Record Act requests, not just for documents, but also for any emails or texts, etc., that involve a particular item of city business. If we have all of those emails that come in or go out that are on the city system, it is relatively easy to look at that, decide which ones are disclosable and which ones may not be disclosable because they may contain privileged information, or they may have information that matters of privacy would warrant not disclosing all of the email. But if the information has come in on your personal email, then again, we would then have to go to you and ask you to review your emails and then provide to us any emails or text, etc., that involve city business. And again, it becomes a somewhat cumbersome situation. It can be delay. And, arguably in an extreme situation, you could be called upon to have a court, for example, review all of your emails to decide which ones are city business and which ones are not. And we would rather not put you through that exercise. So I would like to encourage you to utilize the city email system. Don't conduct city business on your personal email or your personal cell phones, to use the city system, because I think in the long run, it'll just make your life easier and certainly make city staff's life a lot easier. I'll be glad to answer any questions or concerns that you might have about why you would want to continue to use your own emails or your own cell phones. I'll be glad to try to see if I can explain further why I would recommend that you use the city system.
If there's cell phones, I haven't gotten one yet.
Me either.
Well, then we need to get that to you, that's for sure, because if we haven't provided it to you, it's difficult to use, but I'm sure Karen or Adrian will be able to assist you in getting that set up.
What, we have city cell phones now?
I don't know that that was decided for committees and or commissions, Michael.
Okay,
But we
I
were
thought,
told city emails, yeah.
okay, fair enough. I was thinking that all appointed bodies had city cell phones as well, but if you don't, then obviously I would encourage you, however, not to use your personal cell phones for city business, for the same reason that I just articulated concerning having access to that information. To the extent you can use email instead of your cell phone, that would be certainly preferable. And if you find, that it is something that you really would like to have use of a cell phone because you can conduct more business that way, I think that's something you could discuss with staff, and we could certainly look into doing that if that's an easier system for you to use.
That makes me think of a question is if I have, myself, I have one cell phone and I have a personal email and a city email, and both of those reside on that phone. Are those separated enough to be, to reach the goals that you've just discussed?
I think the answer is yes. I think as long as you have a system set up so that the city related business is being conducted through the city's email system, that can be easily called out and separated. I think that's the key issue.
All right, thank you.
Michael, can you make a distinction between OSEC business and anything involving the city? Because we are all also regular citizens that
Sure.
discuss city issues amongst friends that have nothing to do with our role on OSEC.
Good point. Certainly as, residents of the community, you certainly, all of you weigh in on various issues concerning city business that may not necessarily involve your role as committee members. And so my advice is with respect to your role as committee members, that you use the city's email system for that purpose. If you're dealing with an item that is not within your committee's, what's euphemistically called subject matter jurisdiction, then you don't have to use the city's email system for that purpose. Sometimes the lines get a little blurred, though. I mean, I just know how these things work. And so, if you have some doubt about it, I would use the email system of the city if you think there's any close call on it.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? So if somebody sends me an email to my personal email and it's something regarding something about OSEC, can I reply from my personal email and copy my city email so that there's a city record of it?
That's what I would do. Yeah,
Okay.
if that comes in like that, forward it to your city email and then delete it from your personal email. And then I think that'll work. Because again, many folks in the community may only know your personal email, and maybe what you would want to do in that case is remind them that in the future, if they have a question or a concern or a comment concerning OSEC business, to send it to you at your email address and provide that to them. Not that people will always do that, but that way you remind them that that's the preferable way to communicate with you when you're talking about OSEC business.
Erin has her hand raised.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate not wanting to mix personal and city business in not having city business on personal email accounts. I, however, have a slightly weird situation where I travel a lot.
Yes.
And I do not like having city email loaded on my personal device. So I'm okay with it on my laptop and my computer at home, but not on my cell phone. So I do have my city email forwarded to my cell phone, and I do reply from my cell phone, and that makes it my personal email when I'm on travel for the purposes of scheduling meetings. So it's not conducting city business, and when I reply, it's a reply from my personal email, but it's been forwarded from the city and it goes back to all of the recipients. So it's a reply all. Is that sufficient? If I make sure the content is only, yes, I can meet on May 3rd.
Sure. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Again, I think that's an issue. That's kind of a procedural scheduling issue. I'm less concerned about something like that. And if that works easier for you during your travels, so be it. I think that's just, I don't see a problem with that. I think it's when you get into matters that are substantive in nature is where the problems can arise. But, are you available on this such and such date? Can you meet on this date, et cetera? That doesn't seem like that would be a problem from my point of view.
I appreciate that.
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Were there any other announcements?
Thanks, Michael. If you want to drop off, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. Appreciate it.
Okay, if there's no further announcements, we'll commence with oral communications.
I have received none.
Well, then we will go forward and approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second.
We'll do a roll call to approve it. Erin Becker,
Aye.
Barbara Ebel,
Aye.
Glenn Fieldman,
Aye.
Jason Noonan,
Abstain.
Mary Rogers,
Aye.
Michelle Salmon,
Aye.
and I abstain as well. Seems like they've been approved. We have some new business. We're going to consider formation of subcommittees for a review of Bayland specific plans and future EIR.
So I think the first issue was the question of having multiple subcommittees. And I did speak with Michael about this a couple weeks ago, shortly after our meeting. Essentially, yes, you can have multiple subcommittees, but to avoid any kind of cross-pollination or potential serial meetings, because you'll be looking at subject matter that of course, has a lot of overlap and interties. The recommendation is basically to have up to 3 subcommittees where each person can be serving on no more than one subcommittee. So there are 7 total members. You could have 3 subcommittees with 2 of them having 2 members each and the third having 3 members, or 2 subcommittees with 3 members each. But not having subcommittees that would have, each person would only be serving on one subcommittee. So you wouldn't have any kind of potential for sharing information in a serial meeting kind of way. Does that make sense? Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm giving that the best explanation. Michelle, you look puzzled.
No, I think I understand it. In other words, if I was on 2 different committees, I might confuse or speak about something on the sustainability framework that I heard when I'm in the conservation and open space. And
Essentially,
that would
yes.
therefore be considered a serial meeting.
Right, because you would potentially be sharing information with 2 members here and 2 different members here, and now 5 members have all kind of discussed or shared information on that same issue.
Okay. Well, I will say that I would like to be on the conservation and open space one. And
Wait,
Can I decided yet?
Yeah.
no,
have you
I'm just
guys-
looking. I'm just
Have
saying
you
what.
guys thought about how you want to divide all of the topics?
Maybe we should think about that first.
Okay.
I have skimmed, but have not completely read.
Can't hear you.
I've been skimming the document, but I have not completely gotten through it. I don't know if anyone else has managed to get all the way through it.
No, that's
No.
what we're talking about today.
And
Do you suppose one of you could share your screen and put the table of contents up there? That might be helpful for this.
Yeah,
part of
I'm
the
trying to pull
discussion.
it up online just to refresh my memory. I'm not having
so
any luck.
huge. It takes- I mean,
Give me a minute.
can I recommend
Thought of
page?
that ahead of time.
Can you guys hear me?
yes.
I recommended that we look at page 24 of the plan, because that one has that really nice, all of the chapters and a little blurb about what they are.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, page 24.
Yeah, page 24, I believe,
Mhm.
tells you what's in each chapter.
Oh my God, why is it not going directly to?
I can read it for you. It says components of the specific plan. And the first one is vision and executive summary. The second chapter is introduction. The third one is land use program and definitions. The fourth one is development design, standards and controls. Sustainability framework. That's chapter 4. Chapter 5 is conservation and open space. Chapter 6 is circulation. Chapter 7 is infrastructure. Oh, there it is on the screen. Chapter 8 is public facilities financing and chapter 9 is implementation. And then there is an extensive appendix and the original draft EIR for the plan at the end of the binder, at the end of my binder.
I think to make it easy, everybody should read the first three, right? Chapter 0001 and 02. That's just introduction and definitions. So
I agree.
I think everybody needs to do that and then divvy up the remaining chapters. And that would be, there's 7. There's 7 of us. Perfect. So
I would also actually like
Wait.
to suggest we all read. Never mind, ignore me. I'll dial back. Sorry. Right back on mute.
Land use, I assume, did you include land use as one of the 3?
Yes, that you need, everyone should read.
Okay.
0, 1, and 2.
00, 01, and 02. Yeah.
So
Do you want me to read the descriptions out loud for everybody, or I'm happy to do that? No?
they're on the screen now. so-
Okay, can you read those on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm reading them over your shoulder, but I think other people have their own screens. They can read them.
I can zoom in, but then you can't see them all. So I wasn't, if you would like me to do that, I can.
It's just 4 to 9, or does it go on?
Well, you've got 00 through 03 in the left column and then 4 through 9 on the right. And I believe that is the end.
We're looking at everything.
Yeah, and
Yes.
they are different sizes, page count wise.
I've got page counts in front of me if you want me to tell you real quick.
Who's better than you? Nobody.
that would be very helpful.
The executive summary is 16 pages. Chapter 1 is 18 pages. Chapter 2 is also 18 pages. Chapter 3 is 120 pages. Chapter 4 is 14 pages, and that's the chapter we all want to work on. Chapter 5 is 86 pages. Chapter 6 is 139 pages.
Michelle offered for that one.
Chapter 6.
No, I did. I offered for chapter 5.
Oh, sorry.
Could you say that again? Chapter 3 is 120. Chapter 4 is
14.
14.
uh-huh.
Chapter 5 is 86. Chapter 6 is 139. Chapter 7 is 28. Chapter 8 is 11. Chapter 9 is 9. There might be appendices. I don't know the page counts.
Yeah, there's a chunk of appendices.
I would take one for the
Really
team
need to
and
concern ourselves with chapter 8 and 9.
I think everyone should read chapter 9 because it's the implementation. It's also only 9 pages.
Okay,
And maybe we should also all read chapter 4 since it's only
Yeah.
14 pages.
I agree. So that leaves 4 chapters, I think, to
So-
be divided among subcommittees.
Okay, I'll do circulation, the 130-page monster. I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll also volunteer for circulation.
So that's Jason and Barbara, that's chapter 6, right?
Chapter 06, circulation, 130 beautiful pages.
Okay.
And I'm happy
Can
to
you
work.
can you quickly go back to which chapters did you say everyone was going to do? 0001, 02, and
04,
and 09.
04, the sustainability framework?
Yeah, so 0, comma, 1, 2, 4, and 9.
Mhm. I mean, just be realistic here. We're gonna fight. Oh, there's gonna be like cat fight up here. if we try to make us divide
I
that
understand.
one up.
I'm just I understood all but 4 because others seem like ones where you may not have a lot of discussion on substance necessarily, but I'm not sure I would agree with chapter 4. That seems like something you might want to discuss as a subcommittee, which if everyone is reviewing, I mean, everyone can review everything. That doesn't mean you would be having a subcommittee discussion outside of a full meeting about it.
Adrian, can I make a
Sure.
comment?
Yeah.
So we're the Open Space and Ecology Committee, and I think everyone understands that chapter 4 is very much related to the open space and ecology scope. So in some sense, the divide and conquer the rest of it is how do those other chapters relate to the chapters that everyone is all reading? And we're going to be looking for areas where the contractor has provided things that are going to impact the city either positively or negatively. And so we want to be able to catch that. And I think it's important that we read the chapters that directly align to the scope of OSEC. And I think it's important we all read those.
I agree. And
I
we're
agree.
we're reading them. We're reading them. Good.
And therefore, I would really request to have a paper copy, like a whole copy. I can't, this is way too much
Let's-
reading. Yeah,
Let's come back to that.
okay. So if we have the remaining 4 ones and we're really only supposed to have 3 subcommittees, or,
Can one of them be
I mean, we could
conflated?
combine a couple of sustainability framework as it pertains to infrastructure.
What's 07?
Could we combine a couple of chapters into one subcommittee?
Well, I could take 05 and 07 together. Those are kind of related, and that comes up to like 114 pages.
So I'll work with Michelle.
Yeah. So
Are we, is our scope to be involved in public facilities financing? Is that part of our deal, or can that be?
I think it would be nice if we figured out which are going to be together, and then we can all say who would be interested in which one, so that we can
Would financing
make a
go with
decision that way, as
implementation?
opposed to just jumping
Okay.
in and not writing about it. So,
I chose those because they're subject matters that I'm most familiar with.
You said 05 and 07, Michelle? Okay.
Into one group.
into one group.
Doesn't have to be that way. It could be some other way, but that way the page counts kind of come out about the same. And so we would combine 03 is development standards and controls. And
Let me just field this. What do you think about conservation, open space, and then infrastructure 07? Because those actually seem to pair a little bit better in my mind.
isn't that what I just said? 05
I thought
and
she
07.
said 08.
No, 05 and 07.
Yeah.
Got it.
So 05 and 07 are one subcommittee, right?
Yes,
Okay.
conservation.
So we decided that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of leaves the third subcommittee with development standards and controls, which is a bear, although not as much of a bear as circulation, and public financing, facilities financing, which will be pretty light, I think.
Yeah. And that those kind of do kind of could
Yeah.
fit together.
So 3 and 8,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's another subcommittee. Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll
So
have
it sounds like we just have 2 subcommittees.
3.
Three.
We have 3,
4 and 6 are together?
4 and
Or-
6. Okay.
4 and 6.
I
And-
still don't see why this committee needs to be concerned with financing.
Yeah.
I think it's only 11 pages. I think it would just be good for the subcommittee to read it to make sure there's nothing that comes up. I mean, if you don't need to comment on those 11 pages, you don't need to comment on those 11 pages.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised where little things that pop up sometimes.
Yeah.
I
And
have another-
besides,
thought everybody was gonna read 4 because that's the one that's
Yeah.
most our mission, effectively, our scope.
Yeah, but we
some-
can't,
nobody's
can't
arguing about
comment
that.
and talk about it if we're just all talking about it.
I think we can, as long as we schedule it during a regular meeting.
right.
Correct.
We'll have
No,
to-
I thought we could, as long as we didn't talk about it all together. As long as the subcommittees were doing their thing, the subcommittees can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand two subcommittees couldn't look at the same chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're
so-
correct, Erin. I didn't explicitly say it that way, and I hadn't necessarily imagined it going that way. But I think as long as the conversation happens within the subcommittee and subcommittees aren't discussing amongst each other unless it's happening in a public noticed OSEC meeting, then yeah, I think the subcommittees could talk about the chapters that everyone is reviewing,
Okay.
just not to each other.
So
To each other in a outside of a public meeting, you cannot have that conversation. If you each do your independent subcommittees and then come back to a full OSEC meeting and talk about, report out from each subcommittee, I think that is acceptable. Yes.
Mhm. So Mary and Aaron and Shauna, because one
I-
committee can have 3 and the others have 2.
I'm willing to take whatever job nobody else wants on this one. So.
I already
as
did
long as
that with
we're all
circulation.
for it, I will take anything. So you guys go ahead and figure out what you want and I'll fill in the gap.
I'll take 3 and 8.
Okay, so Mary and Aaron? The 3 and 8 is 3 is the
Development
development
design,
standards and
yeah.
controls. And actually,
Finance, yeah.
I think you'd be fabulous on that, Aaron. Not as
Wait,
much.
Let's see what everybody else before you assign me.
Well,
No offense.
yeah, I would like to do 05 and 07, and Glenn said she'd like to do 05 and 07. Jason and Barbara said that they would do 06 and
4.
04.
Nope, 6 is on its own.
Oh,
Everybody's
6 is
doing
on
4.
its own.
Okay.
Yeah, that they wanted to do 06.
Cheese stands alone.
So unassigned are Aaron and Shauna at this point, or unspecified yet.
I would prefer to be on probably 5 and 7. The other ones are quite outside my purview and I have nothing to say about them.
Okay, so Aaron, are you good with 120 and 8?
That would be chapter.
I mean, sorry,
chapter
03,
3.
8, sorry, 03 and
Yes, absolutely. With 03 and
me.
8.
with Mary.
I look forward to it, Mary.
Okay, great.
You're
thank
gonna
you.
love working with Mary. She's great on subcommittees.
I can tell already.
Okay, so
That leaves us with one problem is nobody's reading the appendices.
I intend to read through them,
Okay.
but I think that we should all like cruise through. Well, let's see what's in them right now. How's that for an idea? The appendices are use classifications and the glossary. Oh, hold on. Sorry, this is a big document, which is why it's so, okay, the appendices start with this blue thing. So basically in the appendices, it has use classifications and it talks about all of the definitions of use classifications like educational research development, exhibition consent, convention center, et cetera. So this is like a reference section. Like if you find something that you're reading about and you need more information on it, and it really goes across definitions that go across the entire thing. There's like transportation, utilities and infrastructure uses. There's residential uses, commercial uses. There's definitions for parking structures, instructional services, et cetera. Appendix B is a straight alphabetical glossary with things like articulation, building height, buffer zone, facade, sustainability. So those are things that everybody should read those, the first of the appendices, so that you're familiar with the terms that you'll be reading in your chapter. I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with that, at least be aware what's in there in case you run across something you need further definition on. And then the second part is in the appendix is the draft of the Baylands infrastructure report that was done originally. And it looks pretty technical, and I don't know the relevancy at this point to the whole document. I don't understand this part yet because I haven't gone through it. But
The subcommittee that's doing the infrastructure chapter probably should look at that.
yeah, I would
And that would
think
be us.
that would be us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Plus draft infrastructure. Okay, fun.
That just added 70 pages to your page count.
Well,
Does that mean we should reconsider?
a lot of the pages are
Pictures.
illustrations.
Okay, if you guys are good, I'm good, but I just wanted to make sure you're okay with that.
Yeah, it's like really, I'm gonna sit here and study this picture of a 8-inch HDP pipe that's not to scale that goes with the other valve manhole frame cover and memorize it. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that's in the draft report. So, but there are also a lot of background materials. So yeah, we'll read that too. It'll be fun.
So I have I guess it's logistics. I'm not sure what kind of question it is. We now have an awful lot of subcommittees on OSEC, and they are not easy to schedule. Is there any rule that says OSEC subcommittees need staff for all of the meetings? Because it seems like there's a lot of forming and storming we can do if we're only trying to schedule, an hour at Madhouse or whatever to talk about stuff before we come meet with staff with our questions.
It was my understanding that these are ad hoc subcommittees, and that ad hoc subcommittees do not need to be noticed and do not necessarily need staff participation. Is that correct?
That is correct. I would say, there are certain ad hoc subcommittees that do generally meet with staff, but I did not expect that these ad hoc subcommittees would require meeting with staff. If you need staff resources for a meeting, then obviously reach out to us and then we'll work together to schedule that. But
Great.
And they can also be remote, isn't that right?
ad hoc can be remote. Yes. So only our standing subcommittees need to follow that, kind of formal noticing procedure. And obviously that would require staff being there, but the ad hoc subcommittees who are working on these short-term projects or review do not.
But we do need to make sure it's in our OSEC email.
Yes. Do make sure you are using your OSEC email.
And what's our timeline to get done with this?
That is an excellent question that Karen was just mentioning. So comments on the specific plan are actually to be submitted with the EIR. So that we won't actually have to submit these for a while. But once that EIR is released, there will be a whole new batch of things that you will, I assume, want to review. So my recommendation would be get started on the specific plan so that you've mostly dispensed with that by the time the EIR comes out and you can move on to that. I will note the notice of preparation of the EIR was released today. So the 30-day clock on comments on the NOP started today.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about how you want to address that, that may have implications for how you want to time any kind of review of the actual specific plan itself.
I haven't done enough city government. I will admit I don't follow this well enough. So the city today filed the notice of intent to do the EIR. And that means that we have the public has 30 days to make a comment. But the EIR is going to take them longer. So as long as we get our comments in with enough time for them to consider it, or wait, do we need our comments in within 30 days in order for them to be considered by the city when they do the EIR?
Yes. So if you want to specifically request something be studied in the EIR, you need to submit that during this 30-day NOP timeline.
Second question, do we want to discuss this as OSEC committee before the 30 days is over?
Yeah, that's
Will
going to
we
be
have time?
difficult since our next meeting's about 30 days out.
The next meeting, regular meeting, is the day before comments are due.
One wonders.
We make a 2-week self-imposed deadline for the reading that we have just set ourselves up for, and then touch base.
I don't think I can get through the 139 pages for circulation in 2 weeks, to be honest, and the NOP.
But if we can't, that means we can't comment on it, right?
But
No,
it's
I don't
different.
think you need to review the full specific plan to be able to comment or make suggestions on the NOP. Karen reminded me, I did not mention there is a public meeting for the NOP May 9th.
So there's. I'm sorry, I missed that. There's a notice of preparation out right now.
It was posted today.
Okay.
And that document was 23 or 28 pages.
Yeah.
or something.
I think 23.
So if we did all our reading and met as a committee the night before the comments were due, we could get it all there, right?
I'd just like to say on the NOP, how it usually goes is that individuals can make comments on the NOP, any individual. And so if you are doing your reading, you can jot down something that you think and you can submit it as Jason Noonan and then bring it to the committee as well. But in case you were worried about it, you can go ahead and submit comments at any time in the 30-day period as yourself, and then still be able to submit comments as a group.
It's good to know, but I'd rather not blur things like who am I speaking as, myself, or, if we could get a plan where we got our act together in time for this, I think that'd be superior to like you commenting. Are you Michelle Salmon, or are you Michelle Salmon, member of this committee and subcommittee?
Yeah, it's highly likely I will make individual comments as Michelle Salmon.
Right.
And then also participate in what we're doing in OSEC.
Right.
And even if they're the same comment.
Right.
I have a crazy suggestion.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Please.
And I'm going to need help from staff from here. But my first idea was that as subcommittees, we all come up with our lists, this is what we intend to submit. And we give it to staff some magical days, 10 days or 7 days or whatever, before our next OSEC meeting. And those get included with the minutes. Not sorry, the minutes, the agenda. So it's a packet with the agenda. And that way, the other two subcommittees, the night of our next meeting, can say, oh, wait, we need you to read page 372 because they addressed it and it's okay. Or you're right, I also saw this in my section. So in some sense, we're not violating the Brown Act because the public is getting the exact same list of questions that we're giving each other in advance. So we'll have some homework before our next meeting but we're not going to violate the Brown Act by getting together. And that way, the night before the meeting, or sorry, the night before the public comments are due, we already have a list of questions and we only need to tweak the few that have issues.
That was more or less what I was going to suggest, whether you do it individually or with your subcommittees or both. So our next meeting is May 24th. Agenda goes out the Friday before. In order for me to compile them, I would probably want them like that. The Monday of that week would probably be ideal. Maybe I can say Tuesday. I should probably check my calendar and make sure I don't have a crazy week that week, but something along those lines, as Aaron said, 7 to 10 days before our meeting. That way I can compile them and post them with the packet. And then when we meet on the 24th, it's a review and confirm and make any modifications, which are hopefully relatively minor, because then I'm going to still have to make those modifications and submit the very next day.
Sounds like a good plan, I think.
You would want them by what date?
Let me get the calendar to confirm
The
that.
Monday before would be the 15th.
Oh, a whole week before?
Well, yeah, the agenda
Yeah.
gets posted the Friday before the meeting and I need to put the packet together. So
Yeah, so we would have to give her our questions or our notes by the 15th, maybe the 16th at the very latest.
Okay.
oh yeah, because I'm actually going to be out of town on the 19th. So yeah, I would.
Wait a minute. Wow,
Ye-
that is, so
yes,
that's like
fast.
2
That's-
days before.
Yeah.
what's that meeting?
So those are the
9 a.m. on the 17th, and I can block off part of my day on the 17th.
Okay. That's a little better.
Just to be clear, those are the comments on the for the
On the
notice-
NOP.
a notice of preparation for
Yes.
the draft EIR on the specific plan, which is not this document.
Correct.
Oh, I was confused. I thought we
And
were
it-
making this
Yeah.
document.
No.
No.
Oh.
The NOP is what, 23 pages? Is that what you said?
Right. So
Yeah.
the notice of preparation is notice of preparation of the environmental impact report. An environmental impact report will be prepared to study the impacts of the specific plan that is presented on all of the various environmental impacts and present on those, which is considered alongside the, development application. I'm probably screwing that up, but hopefully somebody's going to correct me. Michelle, Karen, somebody who's been through this a few more times.
Well, from what I remember from doing the draft EIR on the Baylands in general, and the other ones that I'm trying to channel that guy who taught us so much.
Lloyd Zola.
Lloyd Zola, yeah. So basically, the notice of preparation is like you look at the specific plan and you see things that you think that might not work or that you want to make sure are environmentally sound. And so you ask a question, can you please make sure you address sea level rise? And that's one of the things you might put in the notice of preparation, a question that you have. And so then when they draft the EIR, they need to respond to those questions that all the people have asked, plus all the things that are legally required. So say, for instance, there's a wetlands area that they haven't addressed or, that they plan to build all over. You might want to ask in the notice of preparation, how do you plan to mitigate the loss of habitat, wetland habitat or something like that? Or you can get really specific.
But that's based on our reading of this, right? That we then. our
Maybe,
reading of
maybe
this-
not. It could be also based on what you know about the land. So for example, when they,
Right, but
But
what I'm trying to
for our
figure-
purposes, yeah.
What I'm trying to understand is how our review of this fits into the notice of preparation and understanding that.
Because this is stating what they plan to do.
Right.
And now they need to do an environmental impact review based on them doing this.
Right,
So
Michelle, so
reading
you,
this
you've said that
helps.
you can say what you want to say as Michelle, or is it, but in terms of this, we need to get this reading done so that we can comment by May 17th, 9 a.m., right?
On
Not absolutely.
the drafting of the EIR, not necessarily on the specific plan.
So think about the NOP as like, I want you to study these impacts in this particular area. You will have an opportunity later when the draft EIR is released to comment on that and to submit your comments on the specific plan. We don't like this thing that you're proposing. That comes later. The NOP is really just make sure that you are looking at this, that you are studying that
So
impact in
what
the
we need-
environmental impact report.
What we need to focus on by May 17th is the 23-page.
Yes. And having a general understanding of what's in the specific plan surely won't hurt to, inform what things that you might want to ask them to study or make sure that they are planning to study. But I don't think you have to read, your entire 100 and however many pages
39.
before you do that commenting.
So the results of the NOP and the EIR, will they change this package by chance?
It could,
Okay. Okay.
they could, in the EIR, they could determine that building a, 120-story building would have too high of an impact on
Got it.
the
Okay,
environment, and therefore it would not be allowed. That
Okay.
would have to be removed from
All
the
right.
specific plan. I don't know if there's a 120-story building in there. I'm just using an outrageous example.
Yeah.
Because I have not yet read it. But, these are things I'm remembering from, the non-specific plan that was in the Baylands development that we looked at when we did the overall, what did he call it? Something EIR instead of the specific EIR.
Programmatic, was that it?
Programmatic,
I think that
was.
might be right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now we're getting down to the nitty gritty.
Ish.
Yeah.
I have a question, a secondary question. So I understand the notice of appropriation and any concerns we have, we would give to whoever puts that environmental impact report together, and they would look into those things. And then they release the environmental impact report, and then we would have draft. Great. And then we'd have the opportunity to comment again. What I'm now curious about is we started this meeting talking about how we were going to break down the Baylands specific plan. Is there any more public comment on this, or is this the background and the foundation that all of our future comments are based upon?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, my understanding is this is the specific plan that the developer would like to build. And it has been submitted as such to the city of Brisbane. There's a lot of processes that happen before this particular plan that they would like to build is allowed to be built. And so the developers made their intention clear. This is what we think we can build, and this is the timeline that we want to build it, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the city council has not approved this specific plan yet, because before they do that, they need to see an environmental impact report. And before they can see an environmental impact report, there has to be a draft environmental impact report that gets reviewed. And in order to do the draft, they need to make sure that they cover every area of interest to and respond to everything that people want to know or are worried about or expect. And in that process, when you get to the draft EIR stage, they should have addressed all of the reasonable things that were put forth in the notice of preparation by people asking what they want to have looked at. During the draft EIR review process, people are allowed to say, well, you didn't address that properly, or we don't feel that's been correctly addressed. And then they need to review that and make a determination before they publish an EIR. Once they publish the EIR, then the feasibility of actually implementing this plan that I'm holding here in my hands goes forward to the Planning Commission and to the council. So this is a longer process than the next 30 days. The next 30 days is basically, is there anything you're worried about that you want to make sure they cover in the draft EIR? And this plan should help frame those questions. Does that make sense?
That was fantastic. I appreciate that very much. And also, I'm sorry, I'm a noob at the city planning development stuff. And so.
Aaron, I've just been through this so many times already.
Thank you for your patience.
Plus, ask Barbara and Glenn. We were all totally counseled numerous times by Lloyd Zola, who is brilliant at this stuff, right?
Did you have a question, Barbara?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's fine. I'm just
Then-
gonna,
Do you think I captured that correctly, Barbara?
yeah, I
Glenn?
was just gonna elaborate, but it's fine. You got it.
Okay. Is everybody clear now? Karen?
Sorry, we were just looking to see if we could find, there's a nice little flow chart about the process that I was gonna see since I was already on the city website Baylands page, to see if I could remember where that was and just share it real quick. And I can't find where it is at the moment. So, oh, and just as I say that I can't find it, I find it
Excellent.
here. So I think this is probably,
I know just what chart she's talking about too.
Mm.
there you go.
So I can't see that in Zoom land.
I can, you know what, Erin, I can put the link in the chat for you if that helps.
That would be great.
And can you just also send us all a link to that particular page on the city website? Because I find it really hard to find stuff on the city website.
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to see if I can zoom in any way, but you won't be able to. Not much, really.
That's a great graphic.
So we're kind of down here in this green and blue. Oh, replace UPC with BDI now.
Is there a development agreement in here? No, I don't think there is there?
I don't believe that's, yeah, I think that would. I am not aware of any development agreement having been proposed or drafted at this point in time.
I think we're still like up on the upper part of this, right?
Well, they've submitted a specific plan and the EIR is starting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So this is more about some of the community meetings that happened a couple of years ago, technical studies, and then the remedial action plan and landfill closure work.
Which last I remember has not been completed yet, right?
Nope.
So. So we haven't done the wrap. There might still be technical studies going. I would expect there's still some technical studies going on.
I believe that would be correct because I think some of those would feed into the EIR. So
Mhm. So we're kind of still up and
yes, some of the things in that top row are still happening, but some of the things in the bottom row are also starting to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a very simplified version of it. It really looks more like.
Yeah, there's a few more arrows that are missing.
Yeah.
Ah.
Like Okay,
Yeah, I don't see the NOP here.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't very CEQA specific.
no, not at all. I was thinking of the one that Lloyd Zola had presented in one of his mini lectures that sort of, he had a
Yeah,
really good
I seem
one.
to remember we had one that was on a skinny piece of paper that was really good.
Yeah,
It was almost like a giant bookmark.
Probably in those training materials that we got.
Yeah.
When we had those meetings about when this whole thing
Yeah.
got started,
Yeah.
so many years ago.
I might still have that in paper.
I might still too. I'm not sure.
Okay, so everybody's good with what our task, our most immediate task is, and then our longer term task.
Yes.
Do we want
Are we ready to move on?
Yes. If everybody's answers are ready to move on, then we can. Does anybody have any other questions?
Not about this.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then we will
Oh, yeah.
move forward and consider formation of subcommittee for future review of the quarry development and EIR.
So I think this had
Hmm.
come up at the last meeting or was it the last meeting? You guys as a committee had requested to be able to do a review similar to what's happening to the Baylands for a proposed quarry development. And the city
I
manager.
think you need to speak closer to your microphone.
Okay,
Karen.
the city manager asked the council and verbally they said, yes, we want OSEC to review it as a body. But at this time, there is no application. So we're just talking about how you would break up a potential application. Would there be one subcommittee or is it something that everyone's interested in and you might want to break it up by subject matter when it comes up? But we don't have an application.
I
to discuss at this
I
point.
I brought this forward like 2 meetings ago, asking if because this is a potential development in a sensitive habitat within the boundaries of the HCP, and there will be a tremendous amount of impact on our open space, natural habitat environment, and as well as the people of Brisbane if this does go forward. I asked if we as OSEC could be allowed to participate in review of the process. And I understand that there was potential plan, then there was a specific plan, then there was a notice of preparation last summer on the draft for an EIR, and then they submitted a more specific plan, I think, in November, and then in December they did a addendum notice of preparation in the middle of Christmas, where no one really knew what was going on and it didn't happen. I mean, I didn't make comments on it. I didn't even know it was going on because it was right during the holidays. And then I've heard that there's some issues about the HCP and take permits and that type of thing. And I just wanted us to be able to, kind of weigh in on this since it is very related to open space and ecology and our natural habitat and the protection of it, and the habitat conservation plan and all the primary tenets of which this committee was founded on. And so I know that we're not at the point where there is a draft EIR for us to review, but I know that they have filed this specific plan, and I'm wondering if we could be reviewing that just like we're reviewing the Baylands specific plan. Because they must have filed a specific plan or they wouldn't have done an addendum to the NOP.
Plus the scope, I believe, changed from
Dramatically.
right?
Yeah.
So
And so when you say there's nothing to review, I think that there is. I think it's pretty much just like the review that we're doing right now on the Baylands specific plan, only we didn't get an opportunity to comment on the NOP because it was I guess we had a very narrow opportunity that we as a committee weren't able to do because we didn't even meet in December. But
That was in bad time or,
yeah,
yeah.
so that's why I brought it up and that's why I brought it forward. And so consider formation of a subcommittees for future review of the quarry development and EIR. It's more like I would like us as a whole committee to at least review the specific plan that was filed, because it will have severe impacts on the community and on the habitat. Traffic, noise, lights, 24/7 hour operation, dramatically increased truck traffic, reconfiguration of Quarry Road, and needing an amendment to the HCPs for more take of endangered species. So it's very involved. And I don't want to be caught at the last minute like we are with making comments at the last minute for the notice of preparation. We already missed that notice of preparation.
Yeah. That truly is a pity. I guess we should have had a December meeting this year, but.
Well, I don't know
Water
if
under
it
the
would have come
bridge.
up. I mean, the other thing too is we've had a severe loss of habitat on the 31st of December that also impacts the HCP. We had 3 major landslides in prime butterfly habitat on San Bernardino Mountain, all in Brisbane's sort of sphere of influence. Firth Canyon, Buckeye Canyon, and Owl Canyon. And then numerous smaller landslides around the mountain that also impacted grassland habitats.
So where does that leave us right now?
I don't know. Where does that leave us right now?
Are you talking about the quarry or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to check. What I'm seeing is the revised notice of, and I apologize, I think we both kind of forgot that had happened. Revised notice of preparation was released December 15th to January 16th. It was recirculated to account for revisions to the project description, including the applicant's submission of a design permit and general plan zoning text amendments. So that's all on the city website, the revised NOP and the comments. That comment period is closed. No EIR has come out. So I don't know if there's any type of specific plan or application that's been put out. I mean, we didn't get any, we get the same emails that you do announcing those kind of things.
So
So I
The-
guess we'll have to find out if there is something to review, but you're right, the process has started. You're right about that.
Yeah, definitely it has started. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe you want to start with looking at that revised NOP and the comments and then talking about whether you want one subcommittee or 2 or 3 or.
Okay.
Maybe Adrian can send us links to those pages as well so that we don't have to like shuffle through a zillion pages to find things.
what kind of timeline or deadlines are we looking at with this second issue here?
Well, it's a little unclear about what's out and what isn't. But I think the only, as I'm understanding it, and I can be corrected here, is the only thing we really need to do is if there is a specific plan, read it before the DEIR for the quarry comes out at some future unknown date.
I just feel the further we go down the road, the more likely this is to get pushed through without,
Yeah.
people really being aware of it.
Right.
And I'm concerned about that.
So what kind of time frame are we looking at so that we can be on top of that?
I have no idea.
It's up to who's doing the EIR, but the developer is the one that's,
Yeah.
proposing the project. So we don't spur them to do it more quickly or not. I'm not sure if,
Well, I kind of hate to have them go far down that path and spend a lot of money on it if there are serious objections in the community about it.
I think just suggesting that we keep this on new business.
Yeah. Yes,
until we
Yes.
are notified. At least we don't forget it and.
yeah, just keep it there. And we've just bitten
Right.
off a huge thing here. So
Yeah.
let's chew on what we've got.
Right. And then
and
at that
keep that
point
in
in
the front-
time, we
Right, the front of our
go through a
minds.
process like we just did.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I think it's worth you reading the revised NOP and the comments.
Okay,
I have an alternate suggestion.
Go ahead.
So we just divided up a lot of reading for the Baylands. And in no way am I trying to say that one is more important than the other, but it's quite likely that only 3 of us might be interested in reading and diving into the quarry as an OSEC subcommittee. And the rest of us might be interested in doing it as public. So it might be worth figuring out if we want to make one ad hoc subcommittee or 2. And I don't know that we need to decide that tonight, but it is something we're thinking about.
I agree with you. I would love to see us just carry the new business forward and do it the next time because we've just got a lot. And I'd like us to take seriously the stuff we said we were going to read, the
yeah.
130 pages and the 50 pages. And I'm so with you, Aaron, but for next meeting, I think.
So I think, Adrian, can you promise to keep that on our new business for a while?
Well, no, but I'm going to move it to old business. Besides
Okay.
for that, it'll be on your agenda,
All right.
but it won't be new.
Okay. So I guess we can move on then.
That sounds good. Staff updates?
I think everything I have would be under a subcommittee, so.
Okay.
I've got a couple. Some of you probably know this. I know Glenn knows this. Resolution 2023-10 in support of SB 252, the divestment bill, was passed by council on April 6th. And I believe Ingrid went ahead and submitted that to the link, sign-on link that Glenn had shared. I'm not sure, did we ever sort out if there was a specific person at CalPERS that needed to be sent to CalPERS and CalSTRS?
No, I think the sign-on link was sufficient. That goes
Okay.
to Senator Gonzalez's website. And I'll just offer an update saying that the bill so far passed 2 Senate committees, passed the Labor, Public Employment and Pensions Committee, and it passed the Appropriations Committee. And then it goes to, wait a minute. No, it passed the Judiciary Committee. Its next committee is Appropriations. Then it goes to the Assembly. The Assembly hearings will happen in June, and the Assembly is where we got killed last year. So everybody crossed their fingers.
Okay, thanks for the update. Also on April 6th and second reading on April 20th, the Building Efficiency Program amendment passed. So that was largely just some cleanup and timeline kind of things that Rachel is moving forward with implementing and communicating to the building owners and representatives.
I missed that particular meeting. Can you be a little more specific?
I don't have all of the details in front of me, but let's see if I can challenge my memory to all of the things that were changed. So one of the items specifically about the timeline is about the beyond benchmarking timeline. So basically we had it written in as a 5-year cycle, and the next cycle started, immediately after the end of the first one. There was no time in between if a building owner does not do their improvements, until the end of that 5-year cycle, which they have every right to do. They would not have any time before they need to evaluate and do another audit to realize any improvements. So we built a kind of extra year in there to make sure that any improvements have at least 1 year to see the effect before we say, yeah, you're still not efficient enough and need to go back and do another audit and act on that again. So that was one of the most significant ones. We also worked in some additional kind of pathways or options on the water side of things. Most buildings don't get a water score from Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Those are only available for multifamily buildings for whatever reason. So we built in an extra option that's similar to one that we had on the energy side about being able to be on the performance pathway if they are, Rachel may be able to correct me, 25% below the property type mean, I believe. There may be a weather normalized in there. So really just not penalizing buildings that might already be water efficient, but don't have the ability to get that water score. On the energy side, we changed what the reference metric was, because in working with Energy Star Portfolio Manager and our software that we are using to manage the program, Touchstone IQ, we realized that the metric that we originally wrote into the ordinance as the performance metric to compare to for 25% better, we had written in weather normalized site GHG intensity, which it turns out doesn't really exist in these platforms and would be very complicated for us to manage. So we have changed that to be focused on energy use intensity, weather normalized energy use intensity rather than a GHG intensity. I think that basically covers it. There might have been a couple other super minor kind of tweaks. They were all pretty much just things that in kind of moving forward with the beyond benchmarking implementation work in the last year, we realized like, hey, this is going to be really challenging. We're going to have to go ahead and address this. So that's where we are. I actually will let Rachel do a staff update in a minute about the reporting to date. Actually, Rachel, if you have that graphic, I did not paste it into the slides, so maybe we'll just let you share your screen in a minute for that. My other ones are about bunch of notes on the EV chargers. So you know that we've got the ones here at City Hall and at Mission Blue, which are operating and available. There were a couple of kind of complaints right off the bat about their speeds, and we looked into it, Chargy looked into it and found that there was a setting that was not right, and they corrected it, and it seems like that has fixed that situation. I heard back from one of the people who had complained that they've used it again, and it seems to be working well, and Chargy has been keeping an eye on it to make sure that setting isn't somehow getting triggered back. So hopefully, if anybody out there tried the chargers in the first week or two and had a very slow charging experience, hopefully you'll come back and give it another try. We also put together an FAQ article that will be, some of it will be in the Star in the next edition, and the longer versions are on our website now. So lots of kind of details about what we have and what kinds of charging speeds you can expect and that kind of information. And then Bayshore is complete except for the PG&E service upgrade, which I still don't have a timeline from them on. And our fast charger at City Hall permit application is in. So that project is going to be moving forward. And completing the reporting for the grants for the stuff that's been done to date. Glenn?
I was just going to ask if you pass word about repaired chargers and stuff like that on to Clay so he can put it in the blast on Friday afternoons. That might be another way to reach people.
Caroline has that information.
Okay.
So I don't know if she put it in there or not, but I will mention, or honestly, there's a decent chance she's already heard it right now as well.
You guys miss she's doing the blast on Wednesdays?
Wednesdays, yeah, it's now on
Yes.
Wednesdays.
So, but I can pass that along if she doesn't hear it.
I did have
Already?
a question or two. It came up on social media. Are the chargers, how much do you charge to charge? So how much is it? And that type of thing. And then also someone said, well, what if there's an event at Mission Blue and there's no parking? Can you park there still if you're not charging? And that's a problem because that parking lot absolutely fills up when there's an event. And sort of the same thing for, park and ride, but in particular, the Mission Blue. So that question came up really strongly because the charging stations take up 6 places there? Something like that?
We have 10 chargers.
10 parking places in a very small parking lot that's heavily used when there's an event.
So I'm going to answer the first question because it's a little simpler first.
Okay.
30 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay. And is there you stick your credit card in or something?
You use an app. It's a
okay.
Chargy app. If you walk up to the machines, it says, go to this website, or has a QR code that you can scan, get the app, and the pricing you pay through the app. There's not a credit card machine on the chargers themselves.
Okay. And Chargy gets that.
Well, ultimately, we will receive the majority of the revenue. There is, fees that we pay them for managing the network and all of that. But yes, ultimately the revenue comes to us, and we set the charging at that rate because we have to pay for the electricity.
Okay.
And our electricity price varies by time of day and season and is different at our different facilities. And we decided changing it all the time or at all of the different places was going to be complicated. So and confusing to people. So we kind of went with an average, and I'm going to be keeping a close eye on our utility bills and our usage to make sure that I got that number right, and we'll adjust if need be. I think one of the things that I am questioning or maybe concerned about is the potential need to have higher pricing during the summer peak hours, because the pricing during those hours is very high. And that's honestly when, from a system-wide electricity perspective, we really don't want people to be charging EVs if they can avoid it. So we may implement higher pricing for those summer peaks if we need to, but we'll see how that goes. To the question of Mission Blue parking, well, parking as a whole, we are going to be adding signs. The spaces should generally be used for active EV charging. That said, for a private event, we do kind of expect that could become an issue. Technically, they are still EV charging spaces that the public could use in a public parking space, in a public parking lot. With most things in the city, it will likely be enforcement based. So,
okay.
Or complaint based, sorry,
Yeah.
complaint based enforcement.
Yeah.
So that's, I can't say much more than that, really. We recognize that it could be a problem, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
also want to provide that charging access to people
got
who
it.
otherwise don't have it. So
Yeah. And the other thing is I've had 3 people now ask me about the dead charging places in the village. And maybe we should just pull them out, let them be parking places again, and then go in and get a grant to put in new ones.
I don't
Since-
know if that strategy would actually work, and we would still have to fund the removal, which I don't know how much that would cost, but
Yeah.
we will be requesting funding in the budget to replace it, and I continue to look for grants that will cover it. And right now, it is, there is a sign on the station, and the parking signage that says you can't park here unless you're charging is covered with a trash bag. So those parking spaces are available for other people to use at this point, because the charging station is not functioning.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
okay, I did
Challenges.
have 2 more, but these ones are short ones, not so long. Mission Blue Center solar project through the PCE bulk procurement project interconnection got submitted just in time before that net energy metering deadline change. And we are going to be starting a project next week with the County Office of Sustainability, a methane gas cataloging project. So basically they have some folks who are going to help us come visit all of our city sites and get a really thorough documentation of any gas equipment that we still have on site, and planning and prioritizing for how we can replace it.
Excellent.
And that's it.
Next,
Oh, Rachel, do you want to
Sure.
say anything about reporting to date? And let me just give you, sorry, switching. There we go.
Great. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. I can be brief. I just wanted to update on the Brisbane Building Efficiency Program. The annual reporting deadline is coming up May 15, and we have already received submissions from 21 buildings. 13 of those are fully in compliance, 3 are exempt, and 5 are pending revisions. I don't know if you recall, but the city switched to an alternate software provider called Touchstone, and that has really helped streamline a lot of this compliance evaluation on the back end. So having a really positive experience with that. Again, this is for the annual reporting. There will also be, starting this year, additional requirements for commercial buildings. I think Adrian, and like Adrian mentioned, those new requirements were partly the reason we needed to pass that amendment, just preparing for these new requirements. And we're in the process of, again, with this new software provider, establishing sort of standardized forms for property managers to submit their basically performance verifications. So certifying that their building is highly efficient and should not need to perform an audit or make improvements, or sort of declaring that yes, they have contracted with an auditor and they are preparing to make improvements within the next 5 years. So that work is still in progress, and we'll keep you updated.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to subcommittee reports. Let's start with events.
Ooh, I want to do that one. We had a very successful habitat restoration last Saturday, and we had a OSEC quorum. Aaron, Mary, Glenn, and I were there, so I was very proud of our group. And we worked for a couple of hours pulling broom. We had 27 volunteers, including several from the city. Carolyn's son Thomas was here. It was great, and we had a really good time. And thank you, Adrian and Jeff, for your support and participation in this. It was great.
I do have to say, pulling all of that broom from that very steep slope made my ankles very sore.
And I have to say, doing it down there on the rocky stuff, trying to pull it out, made me really sore, and I have cuts and bruises to show all over the
Might be
place.
what I just scratched open.
But it was a beautiful day.
It was. I might also note, we talked, Jeff and Ariel and I talked at the end about scheduling for our next. We are tentatively going to propose July 22nd. But don't have a specific location in mind, and knowing that time of year could be pretty warm, we may want to consider whether there is any work in any of the canyons that we need to come back to. Or Ariel also suggested that, Michelle, what's the name of it? The Botanical Garden, is it called? Up at the park entrance?
Yeah.
He noted that up there at the top, tends to be foggier, so it may not be as hot and there might be a little bit more shade cover. So that is another option. A little bit outside of city limits. So,
Yeah.
but I think that's something we can consider. So there's time to make that decision, but those
I'm
were some
sure
of the
that
thoughts so
there's
far.
probably work, well, there's definitely work to be done in Sierra Point Road Canyon. There's a lot of ivy removal that could be done. Our favorite. So I'll take a walk around and see what I see.
Yeah, I didn't make it over there. Was actually thinking I was going to try to do that before we met between Saturday and today. I didn't end up making it there. Forgot about it until now. But yeah, we've got time.
Okay.
All right.
Education and outreach, ladies?
Oh,
Doing much education
No.
outreach these days?
no.
Me either. I'm supposed to write an article for the Star on dark skies, and I haven't done it yet, but it's on my mental
500 words,
500 words.
500 words and an image.
Okay.
We can help with the image if need be. But yes, I forgot to send you that, but I did check with Caroline.
Okay.
And I think we talked about the library update last meeting, right?
We did, but it hadn't actually been implemented and I didn't put anything in your slides to show it, but it was implemented
Looks great.
last week.
I'll have to stop
I
by.
saw
Thursday?
a picture in the blaster on social media.
Yes,
It
it-
looked great.
Yeah, I took Matt from our communications department with me to change out the display. So he took a bunch of pictures and videos and I think turned it into like a little video vignette, whatever, something. So if you haven't seen it, check our socials.
Thank you.
Just a question,
Mm-hmm.
maybe something for us to do. Now that people are coming back to City Hall again, is there any way we could put some posters up about various OSEC concerns, in the front where people come in?
Maybe the flyer about the trees.
Yeah.
Well, we have an area for flyers. So if there's something that we want to add to that, we
Sure.
definitely can. We have a couple, like a counter and then a wall. I don't know what you call that, but
Is there like a bulletin board space?
Yeah.
well, that's not so much of a bulletin board space as like a place where we stack handouts, or it's got those little like pocket things on the walls for handouts. Posters. I don't know. Do we really have a place for posters? I mean, I know sometimes there's like one or two about like a upcoming event that they'll stick up by the front door, but there's not exactly a ton of real estate there. So I think it would probably depend what exactly we have, how much space we need. We can look into it.
Okay.
What were
Yeah.
you like? Were you thinking a series of things or?
Probably, yeah, but I just think it's a good idea to remind people frequently about, shielding their lights and not using more light than necessary at night and, not planting invasive species and stuff like that. Some of these posters could be pretty simple, I would think, but just kind of reminders.
Bob needs a new job.
Pardon?
Bob, we need to get Bob to do the posters.
Wouldn't that be awesome if he did a little series of posters, kind of like,
Yeah,
because he's
Bob is so good.
so good at that.
If flattery would help, we would be glad to lay it on thick. You
Yeah.
can tell him that.
I think it's more about bandwidth of his actual job, which I understand might be a bit busy at the moment, but we can see if we have some real estate and then go from there.
Yeah,
See if
that's the
he's
first
got
step.
the
Yeah, thank
bandwidth,
you.
but yes. We can check into what we might have space for. And then if so, maybe if we have some space, maybe we can schedule a meeting of the subcommittee to talk about what kind of themes we want to incorporate so we can give Bob some
That would be
kind of
good.
specific asks.
And some of his old posters might be tweakable with, with new captions or something, so it might not be a huge amount of work.
I actually have the two from the Dark Skies library display at my desk. So
Yeah, I was thinking along the lines of the process for the library. We do the same for City Hall. change it
Yeah.
out on a quarterly basis, just get in the routine of doing that if
That'd
we
be good.
can.
Okay. We look forward to hearing from you.
I'd be
I
happy for you to. Okay. For you.
Bayland Subcommittee,
No meetings have been
no, it's-
scheduled.
okay. Well,
I don't know.
building decarbonization, I guess
We're scheduled to meet on Monday.
We are.
Yeah.
We met not that long ago. Was that before or after last?
It was before the last meeting. So
Okay.
our next meeting is coming up this coming Monday.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you, Adrienne, you probably know that Berkeley's plan to eliminate natural gas has been dealt rather a setback. So what does
I
that
am-
mean for
I am
us?
Yeah, I
Well aware.
emailed Adrian about that, but
I wish I had the line in front of me. We are looking into it. There has not been a lot of very specific kind of follow-up on the implications. My understanding is that Berkeley has not yet received a stay or injunction. Our city attorneys are reviewing and have concerns. So we are following closely. I spent a lot of time last week trying to dig into this. And I think it's definitely a setback and there are concerns and we want to understand what the risks are and be cautious. And it's entirely possible that we will have to take a new approach or make changes. I think it's not entirely clear right now, but yeah. So
Okay.
I can share more kind of resources that I have on the matter with the subcommittee, and we can talk more in depth if we have any new information about it with the subcommittee. But unfortunately, there's just not been a lot of very specific. Berkeley's ordinance is different than ours. What was challenged is not the same approach technically that we took. And so the ruling itself was also very broad.
It
So
usually takes a while to figure out what court cases really mean. So I was just curious.
yeah, that's still being worked on.
We have not met again on the open space plan update. Probably we won't meet in May because we have a lot of other work to do. But I would like us to, who now in the city staff is going to be sending the letters that Stuart used to send for the possible purchase of acres? Yeah, you can let us know, but it's about that time of year.
I thought they got sent right after the last update, no?
I
Didn't happen
think
until last
that
fall?
he sent letters to those 6. And I was gonna say that I have gotten in Bob's queue to get the map redrawn and to have a package. You guys asked for a package that is gonna be the update. And I'd also mention that I think I will go back to council to include those 5 the lot 79 or those little properties in the priority preservation area since we own them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's in the works to get to you. I know that you guys are waiting
Oh,
for that from me.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll
the
check on the
frogs.
letters too.
Anything on frogs? I walked by there, there's tons of tadpoles everywhere. The water is still looking pretty good. Actually, the main channel, the concreted channel is really quite full of rushes. It's
I don't have any updates. I think we talked last meeting that the consulting firm was going to start in June.
Resource
No,
Conservation
they're
District. Go ahead.
supposed to have a product for us in
Oh, okay,
June.
in June. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're starting.
They've started.
Or have
yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we expect to be receiving at least draft.
Okay.
I don't know if there will be, back and forth or what on whatever they send to us, but we expect that. I don't know if it will be beginning or end of June, but
What's the
they
process?
said in June.
I wanted to comment about the drainage stuff. So
Yeah.
Shauna had brought up by doing a service request, a drainage issue over there. And then we had a couple emails back and forth. So there's kind of, as I understand from the city's perspective, not really drainage, but there is that channel. So there used to be pipe that was kind of abandoned, but there's still a natural channel. That's what Jason and Paul Buscal have been working on. And then there's the concrete channel. And in between, there's a pipe that's mostly full, clogged. So the water had filled that natural channel and spilled over onto the trail. And that's what Shauna had sent an SR about, and the pipe was clogged. And I hadn't been out there to see it, so I couldn't really picture where the pipe was. And then I guess it dried out. But then in the latest storm, it happened again, and we got a different service request. So I got together the inspector and my assistant engineer that are going to work on the trail resurfacing. And I got the utility team leader, Adrian, because the Resource Conservation District, and myself. And we looked at the drainage out there and we saw that the trail was wet because we're going to resurface and we're going to build it up a little bit. So I didn't know if that would stop the water. And we talked about what we heard from Paul is that he wants to hold water there. I mean, that's kind of the big goal is the water doesn't rush through the channels, but it does have to drain, but you want it to meander so that you can have frogs and tadpoles. And so we talked about, so there is one pipe that's maybe like a 12-inch pipe that's pretty full, and it's keeping water from getting into the concrete channel and it's pushing it over the trail. So people that walk on the trail are saying, well, it's wet on the trail. What are you doing about this? So we talked about like halfway clearing the pipe, that's the balance is some water needs to drain, but not too much water. How do we do that? So we didn't have the utilities engineer who's responsible for like sizing storm drainage. So we met again and brought him out, and it had dried up by then. So I think it's probably dry until next winter. It's probably not going to overflow. But we talked about adding on to that probably corroded 12-inch corrugated metal pipe and having an overflow. So it would rise to the level that if the water in the channel reached that level, it would go into the pipe and go through. And we would do that after the frog season.
Okay.
Because
Great.
we don't want to build a new trail surface and then still have water on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's doing what you want in terms of the frogs, but it's not good for the trail.
Right.
Yeah. That sounds great. Thanks. And, all right, anything further on the invasive species ordinance?
I got an estimate. I emailed the subcommittee who's
600,000.
Huh?
600.
Yeah. Jason, Glenn, and Aaron. So we're trying to find a time to meet
Yes.
at this point.
Dark skies, we definitely met. And we're meeting again. We're still not done.
Yep.
So we'll let you know when we're close done. That's it.
Yeah, no, actually, it's not.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's 8:15.
So the name of the book that Colleen had recommended to me and that I had read sort of details some of the coping with some of the people's fears and expectations and the realities of dark skies and how precious they are. It was called The End of Night: Searching for Darkness in the Age of Artificial Light. And I think staff, I just want to say that staff in cooperation with Rachel did an excellent ordinance. We made some suggestions. Most of those suggestions were taken. I'm sort of not sure where the last couple.
We're going to meet on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out then, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple things that we're looking into and investigating. Streetlights being one of them. Working with Bob on the mapping, which it sounds like he thinks we'll have in time for next Wednesday's meeting. Couple other not as large things. Julia was out of town and just back this week, so she's catching up and commenting on a couple of things that we wanted her to weigh in on. And Rachel has also been investigating potential consultants that we might reach out to confirm some of the kind of numbers and impacts are what we want them to be. So we're proceeding on those fronts.
Mhm.
Yeah, Glenn?
Good. Fine question. What's being mapped? Is it the lights at night?
No, sorry. There's a definition in the draft ordinance for environmentally sensitive habitat areas, which would have the most restrictive lighting requirements. And understanding we have it currently written as the conserved habitat areas, I think is the designation within the habitat conservation plan area, and a buffer around that. So we wanted him to map, because we just kind of randomly picked a number of what's that buffer and how many properties does that include? What's the difference if it's 50 feet versus 100 feet versus, do we just say properties abutting that boundary? So that's what he's looking into and mapping for us. So we can just have a better understanding of what properties would be impacted by that, and know that we're kind of setting a appropriate and reasonable threshold.
Thanks.
Anything for tree issues?
Yeah, I have something on tree issues. I mean, we haven't met on it, but I will say that the constant din of buzzsaws over the last several weeks has been disheartening. There's been some really major trees that have been taken out or severely pruned. And it seems almost, I understand that people were very concerned about the storm and different, issues there. But it was also really disheartening that, some of these were just really, I'm not sure they should have been pruned the way they were, taken out the way they were. And then that's just really concerning. We've lost a lot of trees in the last 2.5 months. And part of those were in poor health and other ones were not. So that's concerning. And then there's a whole lot of trees with ivy on them, city trees on city property. And we really need to work at getting rid of the ivy on the trees on city property. And then there's also a tree that does need to be removed. And it is on city property, but it was not originally planted as a city tree. It's been there most of my life, but it is, the owner wants to remove it. It's a very overgrown cypress kind of looking tree on Klamath Street. It's right up the street from Mary's. But I noticed walking up the sidewalk, it's like buckled the sidewalk, it's buckling the street, it's buckling everything. The tree is definitely outgrowing its space there. It's at least 60 years old because it's been there. I don't remember it not being there, but it's like huge now. And talk about a dangerous tree, that one should be removed. And so I see these different things going on, and it's concerning. And so we do need to get going on the tree issues. And should I just submit some requests for all the city trees I see with ivy on them?
Yeah, you can do that. And my understanding is, we don't have the history whether the city planted a tree 60 years ago or not.
No, the city didn't plant it. The owner planted it. We weren't even a
Other
city
than-
when it was planted.
Right, we weren't in corporate, other than your knowledge. But I think if that person or whoever did a service request, I think the city would review it as if it's a city tree.
I actually put in a service request for that tree for my neighbor. And I can show you the details after. I'm not gonna bring it up. I'll take it offline.
Okay.
Actually, I just had one other thing, and I was wondering, Karen, do we still have any of the tree gators that are available for people?
I don't know off the top of my head, but probably.
I was just thinking that, and this might be a little bit more with the outreach, is the next water bill that goes out could have a little flyer with that we have tree gators available for people, as we move into the summer and warmer weather, if they need something for their street trees.
I'm not sure we can add something in the water bill. It's kind of like prepaid weight and everything.
Oh.
And at one point we were told that we could put a message on the water bill, and this is pre-AMI automatic meter readers. I think it's going to be better, but we did that with PCE and it was this tiny print on the bottom of the water bill. We can do it, but it's not great.
It was just something
Not
that,
effective.
something that went through my head as like, everybody gets one and.
Yeah.
I do want to note Erin has had her hand raised for a minute and I'm not sure how long. Sorry about that, Erin.
No, it was on tree issues. I was gonna get loud in a minute. So I think Shauna's like started down the path I was gonna go down as well. Michelle had a kind of 3-phase comment, and I'm gonna ignore all the city stuff. But Michelle, you're right. There has been a lot of chainsawing. A lot of the trees that came down or are leaning or whatnot are dangerous.
I know.
So what I'm gonna suggest, wish, or whatever, because I don't want to blur the lines about doing this, like the city has to do this or OSEC has to do this or whatever, but it's a really good time to start talking to your friends and family and your Facebook friends about how important it is to replace those trees with the right trees.
Oh, God, yes.
And I don't know what those trees are, but I bet there are people on this committee and people watching this meeting who do know what those trees are. What are the best trees to replace the downed trees with? And so I'm just going to put that out there as a, maybe it should be OSEC outreach. Maybe it should just be people putting a Facebook blast like, hey, this is a really good tree to replace if you live on this part of the city. But it seems like an opportunity rather than just something to be sad about.
I agree. And we have a tree list that we were going to review on the tree committee as well.
That was one piece that we didn't get done before.
Speak into the microphone.
Sorry, that was the one piece that didn't get onto the flyer.
Yeah.
And maybe we can work on that a little bit as soon as maybe in June.
So I'm just looking at the tree removal 7-day notices. For March, there were at least five trees taken out. And these are like large trees of like 80-inch circumference and stuff. It's on me that we didn't have a meeting. I forgot, that fell off my to-do list. But it is back on my, actually I got back on my to-do list yesterday, but didn't have an opportunity to follow through on it. So I will send out that email very soon. And the other thing that I sort of just, we've been wanting to redo the tree removal ordinance since the day it got enacted. And I'm just sort of wondering, you got your, the beep beep ordinance updated, and like, how did you manage to do that? Because we haven't managed to get the tree updated.
I think that the planning staff would say,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll ask them again, but
Mhm.
I think they would say, you guys had a representative and we're okay with the ordinance at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we were, but we immediately realized, because that one at, behind the Habitat for Humanity project came out right after we passed the ordinance. And we realized we didn't write anything in for root protection. And immediately regretted that.
Is it specific to something like that, or is it a lot of things? Or maybe if you send an email to staff, we can communicate with planning staff about because she modified a few things that didn't work about the ordinance. So if there are a few things like that,
Okay.
that's different.
I mean,
than
it's
wanna
been so long.
broadly
I
start over from
might have
scratch.
forgotten some other stuff, but I don't know that we immediately.
Well, let's do it in the subcommittee
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's
We'll talk
like
about it.
Yep, you're right.
8:25
You're
and I
right.
can
You're
see.
right. You're right. You're right. I've just
people
been
are
so hard
tired
to move
and-
forward on this. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll schedule that.
Okay.
Sierra Point Park Planning.
Nothing's happened.
The only thing I had a question about was, with the park planning, I mean, there's been a huge amount of subsidence along the coastline at the marina. And I don't see where that was really being addressed other than just doing a marsh. And so as part of Open Space and Ecology Committee, that concerns me that we're not actually addressing the subsidence issues and the amount of trees that are dying because of the salt infusion and everything. We've lost several large poplars out there because of, death by saltwater infusion. So I just feel like that this doesn't address it at all. And as the committee on open space and ecology, we should be addressing that. I was disappointed when I saw the plans that it really didn't address some of the issues of huge amounts of subsidence out there along the parkway. That's it. Just making a point that we really need to think about addressing that. So let's
But
go on.
Barbara's the representative to that. Did that get discussed or? Did you
No,
get that
it wasn't
feedback?
discussed. I mean, she's right in that the plan seems to be to surrender the perimeter to sea level rise. I agree with Michelle that that's maybe not a good plan, but I'm sort of at a loss to like, how do you keep back the ocean? I'm not sure. you know.
Well, we should fill it up where it's subsided.
Did I mention last month that I submitted a grant for a climate adaptation plan?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that looked good.
Did we get it?
Well, I mean, I just submitted the grant like less than 4 weeks ago, so I don't know yet. But that kind of thing would be addressed in a plan like that.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to fight the ocean.
Just
And
a
did-
general
and
comment. Is it subsidence we're talking about, or is it seawater intrusion?
Both.
Both.
Is happening. It's
Mhm.
extensive.
I tend to agree with the idea that parts of the coast are going to have to be surrendered. And we're really going to have to think carefully about the parts that should be protected and armored, because armoring is going to be really, really expensive.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's go on.
Can we move on?
Adrian, earlier you had said we'll get back to the idea of paper copies for folks. Yes.
Thank you for that reminder, because I did want to find out, I know a couple people already have full copies. Do folks, who wants them, and are you okay with just getting the parts that you are being assigned to, or do you need a full copy? I wanted to get a tally so I can have the staff that's going to run those copies do it all at once, and ideally as little as possible because it's a lot of paper,
Yes.
but
So for me, yes.
Yes.
And the parts I'm responsible for plus the mutual parts, 0, 1, 2, 4, and 9, and then 6. 0, 1, 2, 4, 9, and 6, please.
And the appendix,
No, I don't want the appendix. Thank you. It's just a
the
waste.
glossary, it's only a couple of
I
pages.
can pretend I'll read it. I won't. So thank you. I'll look it up. I have the PDF at home.
Okay.
I'll look it up if I need to, but please, I don't like to be told what to do. Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just
That's
was
okay.
a suggestion,
Yep.
Jason.
No,
I
no,
wasn't telling you
thanks.
what to do.
Yep, thank
I'll
you.
just take 6.
anyone else?
I'll take 5 and 7 and 4.
I couldn't tell for a minute if that was you, Shauna, or if that was Erin.
Oh, nope, sorry. This is Shauna. And I'm more than happy to have a black and white copy. I don't have to have colored pictures. That's.
I don't, well, I'll find out if that's easier or not.
Okay.
So you said just 5 and 7?
4, 5, and 7, since 4 is kind of a big important one. And
I'll give Barbara my 6 copy, number 6.
Oh, okay. You don't mind taking that out of your binder?
No, it's not in the binder.
Okay,
Fantastic. I'll scratch that one off.
cool.
Yeah, it's a nice fat one.
5 or 7.
This is Erin. You guys probably know that. I would love 3, 4, and 8.
Yep.
Cool. I'm sorry.
I will get in touch with staff up in the clerk's office, and I will follow up by email with a date when they will have them ready for pickup.
Do you want that back?
Thank you for the reminder, Jason. Sorry, I forgot to come back to that. I think we can
Do we have,
move on from this. Was that everyone? I think we got
yeah,
Jason, Shauna, and Aaron. Everybody else is good.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Calendar items?
Fantastic. Thank you, Mary. Calendar items. We already talked about the Summer Habitat Day, which was the thing I was really gonna mention on this. It sounds like next month we'll have an agenda item about reviewing the Baylands NOP, keeping the quarry on here as old business. And then Karen, you said vegetation management plan review. And that I think is pretty much all we need to talk about on the calendar besides Glenn. I was going to give you a reminder about the Dark Skies article, but we already talked about that.
And do you need that?
So that's going to be for the June edition. So May 15th or somewhere thereabouts. I can confirm the date with Caroline. She used to always say the 15th. It's probably like the Friday of the week that the 15th falls in or something more like that.
I'm planning to be gone for a lot of May, so I'll probably get it to you sooner than that.
Okay. Well, then that shouldn't be any concern. Earlier is never a problem.
The bike to wherever day, is that like are we going back to an in-person thing or? is
Oh
that
yeah, I
still
forgot to update the wherever to a work because they're doing like a whole month, but then they do have the specific bike to work day, which is on the 18th. And I confirmed with Ricardo and Park and Rec that we're going to be doing an Energizer station, Lagoon. Maybe, I don't know if it's just, I think it was kind of somewhere out. Tunnel and Lagoon. Yeah, that was kind of not that close to the intersection, but yeah. When I went out the one time pre-COVID that we had one there. So that's the scoop.
Okay.
Nope.
I'll try and wiggle out of a few hours of work. I enjoy doing that. I think it's important.
It's fun to see them all biking by. There's a lot of them. Uh-oh.
Chair and committee member matters.
But that's okay.
I like all the new pictures. Those are great.
Is this the time that we can make public related comments that have nothing to do with OSEC?
I suppose.
Beginning and end. So for Christmas this year, maybe it was my birthday, both my mother-in-law and my sister gave me gift certificates to one of our favorite conservation groups that also might have a nursery. And it was a fantastic gift and happened to be right before their plant sale. And this year, the plant sale is a week before Mother's Day. So I'm just going to make a public announcement that if you're looking for a Mother's Day gift, a gift certificate to our native nursery might be a great idea for your mother or suggest to your offspring.
Lovely.
Are you suggesting like San Bruno Mountain Watch gift certificates for the Mission Blue Nursery, Aaron?
I feel weird as a government representative making a recommendation for any group in particular, but yes, Michelle, that was the one.
I have no problem doing that since I sit on the board. So just go to mountainwatch.org and contact Ariel if you want to purchase a gift certificate for the Mission Blue Nursery. And you don't have to wait till a plant sale to use it. We would love to supply you with native plants from San Bruno Mountain. Shameless promotion. Thank you, Aaron.
Glenn.
If we get out of this meeting soon enough, KQED Channel 9 is showing the road, I forget the name of the program, but it's the road to zero carbon or something like that, beginning at 9:00 p.m. this evening.
Hurry,
Just barely have time to get home.
we can make
I
it.
won't make it home, but
No other chair and committee member matters? No other chair and committee member?
All right, next meeting is on the 22nd of May.
It isn't though.
No, it
no,
isn't. It's the
I saw that and I went, wait a minute, what
on
did
the
I do?
24th of
That's
May.
not right. It's May 24th. I'm sorry.
That's what I get for mindlessly reading slides.
Like,
There's a good chance I won't make it to that meeting, and I guess I can't participate remotely. Is that correct? Because I'm not going to be representing the city.
You can do what Aaron did today, which is the old school way of participating remotely under the Brown Act. You need to tell me where you're going to be so I can include it in the agenda, and then post an agenda on hotel room or meeting room or whatever door at the time of the meeting, and you can participate, but you cannot be on video. So you can participate by Zoom or calling in, but you can only participate in audio. So if you would like to do that, that is an option. I can talk to you more about the particulars. Aaron can tell you how it went. It's really not that complicated if you want to, but if you just need to miss a meeting, that is also an option.
It would break my heart to miss a meeting.
I'm
but
sure.
In my passion.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned and well done.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Can you send me some of that produce through the Zoom?
Okay.